The meeting hall floated in space, a massive crystal structure that caught starlight and bent it into rainbows across its walls. Inside, representatives from 43 different species sat in a wide circle, each one looking very different from the next. Some had scales, some had fur, and some were made of something that looked like living glass. They were the Galactic War Council, and they had protected this part of space for 17,000 years. Ambassador Sarah walked into the center of the circle. She was human, and she looked very small compared to most of the aliens around her. Her dark blue uniform was simple and plain. No medals, no decorations, nothing fancy. Behind her, a hologram showed Earth, a blue and green planet that most of these species had never heard of until 40 years ago. War Master stood up. He was made of crystal that changed colors when he moved. He was old, very old, and he had led the council for 3,000 years. His voice came out like wind chimes, translated by computers into words everyone could understand. "We have reviewed your application, Ambassador," he said. "Humanity wishes to join the Galactic War Council. This is a serious matter. Every species here has earned their place through military excellence. Tell us, what makes humanity qualified?" Sarah looked around the circle. She had studied each species carefully. They had shields so strong that nothing could break through them. They had ships with guns so powerful they could crack planets. There were insect-like creatures who could produce 1 billion soldiers in a single season. They could change their bodies into any shape, making them perfect spies and assassins. Every single species had one thing they did better than anyone else in the galaxy. "Humanity doesn't have the best shields," Sarah began. "We don't have the biggest guns or the most soldiers. We're not the fastest or the strongest." Whispers filled the hall. Some species made clicking sounds, others hummed, and a few just stared with confusion. A commander named Vex spoke up. His species looked like walking mountains of rock and metal. "Then why are you here? This council exists because each species brings one perfect weapon, one perfect skill. We work together by having each species do what they do best. What do humans do best?" Sarah smiled, even though her heart was beating fast. This was the moment everything depended on. "We don't specialize in one thing, Commander Vex. We do something different. We combine everything together at the same time." The hall erupted in noise. Some species laughed, others made sounds of disbelief. The idea seemed ridiculous to them. For thousands of years, the Council's way had worked perfectly. When there was a threat, they sent whoever was best suited for the job. Need to defend a station, send them with their shields. Need to destroy an enemy fleet, send them with their planet crackers. Need to invade a world, send them with their endless swarms. War Master raised one crystal arm and the hall became quiet again. Colors rippled across his body, showing that he was thinking carefully. "Ambassador, I will be direct with you. We have seen your military records. Your ships use designs similar to frigates. Your weapons are based on Zephyr plasma technology. Your armor is adequate but nothing remarkable. You are generalists in a universe of specialists. This makes you weak, not strong." Sarah had expected this. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small data chip. "War Master, may I show you something?" Nodded and the chip activated. The hologram behind Sarah changed from Earth to a battlefield. It showed humans fighting other humans thousands of years ago. Primitive explosives, simple vehicles, soldiers with basic weapons. "This is Earth, year 1944 by our calendar," Sarah explained. "This is a war my species fought against itself. Watch carefully." The hologram showed an invasion. Thousands of ships crossed an ocean while airplanes flew overhead. The airplanes bombed enemy positions on the beach. Then the ships fired their guns at the same positions. Then small boats raced toward the shore carrying soldiers. Behind them, more ships unloaded tanks. The tanks rolled forward while soldiers ran beside them. Engineers blew up obstacles. Medics treated the wounded. Radio operators called in more airplane strikes. Supply trucks brought ammunition. Everything happened at once, everything connected. The council watched in silence. The hologram continued, showing battle after battle, tanks working with infantry, artillery supporting both, airplanes protecting ground forces, ships bombarding targets that soldiers marked, medical teams evacuating wounded so they could return to fight again, intelligence officers finding enemy positions so the right units could respond. It was chaos, but organized chaos. Every piece supported every other piece. "We call this combined arms warfare," Sarah said quietly. "No single element is supposed to win alone. The airplanes make it safer for the ships make it safer for the soldiers take ground so the tanks can advance. The tanks break through defenses so the soldiers can spread out. Everything works together." "But this is so complicated," a representative protested. Her body was currently shaped like a human, but her skin kept shifting colors. "The communication requirements alone would overwhelm any command structure. How do you coordinate so many different elements?" "Practice," Sarah answered simply. "Lots and lots of practice, and loss. We learned these lessons the hard way, through thousands of years of fighting ourselves. Every time we specialized too much, we lost. Every time we relied on one superweapon, our enemy found a way to counter it. So we learned to be flexible, to adapt, to make everything work as one system." War Master's colors had stopped changing. He stood very still, and Sarah knew he was either deeply interested or deeply skeptical. Maybe both. "You learned this fighting yourselves?" he asked. "Your species made war upon itself for thousands of years." "Yes," Sarah admitted. "We're not proud of it, but we learned from it. We learned that the enemy is just as smart as you are, just as desperate, just as willing to adapt. So you can't rely on one trick, one advantage. You have to be ready for anything." Another species spoke up, the quar, who looked like floating jellyfish with tentacles. "This is all very interesting, Ambassador, but it proves nothing. These are primitive battles with primitive weapons. Modern warfare is different. Specialization allows for perfection. Your human way seems inefficient and outdated." Sarah nodded slowly. She had expected this too. "War Master, with respect, I believe we're at an impasse. You think we're too weak to join because we're not specialists. We think specialization is a weakness that we can exploit. There's only one way to settle this." "You wish to demonstrate?" asked. "Yes, give us a mission. Any mission your council would normally handle. Let us try it our way. If we fail, we'll withdraw our application and never bother you again. If we succeed, you seriously consider what we have to teach." The War Master's body flashed through several colors quickly, which Sarah had learned meant he was consulting with other council members through their private network. After a long moment, he spoke again. "Very well. There is a situation in the Outer Reach. Pirates have taken over an abandoned military station called. There are approximately 3,000 of them, well armed with stolen military equipment. The station itself has heavy armor and defensive weapons. Normally, we would send the to bombard it from orbit, then the to clean up survivors. It would take 3 days and cost perhaps 1,000,000 lives, but it would work." "You want us to retake the station?" Sarah asked. "Yes, without destroying it. We want the station intact for future use. Can your combined arms warfare accomplish this?" Sarah felt her stomach tighten. This was a hard mission, the kind designed to make humans look bad. Bombarding from orbit was easy. Taking a fortified station with minimal damage while the enemy was dug in deep. That was much harder. But she also knew this was exactly the kind of mission that would show what humanity could do. "We accept," she said firmly. "How long do we have?" 1 week to prepare. The council observers will monitor your attempt. We will provide real-time tactical data but no assistance." "Understood. We'll need to bring in our fleet." War Master's colors shifted to something that looked almost like amusement. "Your fleet is already here, Ambassador. We detected 12 human ships entering the system during this meeting." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "We like to be prepared, War Master." The meeting ended, and Sarah walked back to her shuttle. She knew what most of the council was thinking. They expected humanity to fail, to try some complicated plan that would fall apart under pressure. They thought human generalists couldn't compete with alien specialists who had perfected their craft over thousands of years. They were about to learn why being human meant never relying on just one way to win. They were about to see what 3,000 years of fighting themselves had taught humanity about war. And Sarah suspected that, after this demonstration, the Galactic War Council would never think about warfare the same way again. The shuttle lifted off, carrying her back toward the human fleet. Admiral Reeves would be waiting for her report, and then the real work would begin. They had 1 week to plan an assault on a fortified station held by 3,000 desperate pirates. For this would be straightforward. For humans, it would require coordination, creativity, and the kind of flexible thinking that only came from a species that had fought every type of war imaginable. Sarah looked out the window at the stars and thought about all the human soldiers, sailors, pilots, and marines who had died learning the lessons that the Council was about to witness. She hoped their sacrifices would mean something here, so far from Earth. She hoped that humanity's bloody history could now help protect others from having to learn the same lessons the hard way. The shuttle docked with the UNS Resolute, and Sarah stepped into the corridor where Admiral Reeves was waiting. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "Well," he asked. "We got our test," Sarah replied. "Stationed 3,000 pirates 1 week to prepare. They want it taken intact." Reeves smiled grimly. "Then we'd better show them what human warfare really looks like." Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, watching multiple screens show different views of station. The station hung in space like a mechanical spider, with 8 long docking arms extending from a fat central hub. Sensor scans showed it was heavily armored, with point defense guns covering every approach. The pirates inside had military-grade weapons, probably stolen from a dozen different species over the years. Around the Resolute, 11 other human ships waited in formation. 3 destroyers, 4 frigates specialized in electronic warfare, 2 assault carriers full of marines, and 2 supply ships. It wasn't a huge fleet by galactic standards, but Reeves didn't need huge. He needed coordinated. "Observers are in position, sir," Lieutenant Park reported from the communications station. "Council ships are hanging back at 15,000 kilometers, passive sensors only." Reeves nodded. The aliens were watching, probably expecting either a cautious siege or a costly frontal assault. They were going to see something different. "All ships, this is Resolute Actual," Reeves said calmly into his command channel. "Execute Operation Hammer and Anvil on my mark. Electronic warfare package first, strike fighters second, Marines third. Everyone knows their jobs. Let's show our new friends how humans fight. Mark." The electronic warfare frigates moved first, accelerating toward the station in a wide spread. As they closed to weapons range, they didn't fire any guns. Instead, they turned on every jamming device they had. Radio waves, radar, LiDAR, thermal sensors, everything the station used to see incoming threats suddenly filled with noise and false signals. On the station, alarms started screaming. The pirates scrambled to their battle stations, trying to figure out what was happening. Their sensors showed hundreds of incoming ships, thousands even, coming from every direction at once. It was impossible, but that's what their screens said. "They're panicking," reported the intelligence officer on the Resolute. "Intercepted communications show total confusion. They think we have a fleet 10 times our actual size." "Good," Reeves said. "Launch strike fighters." From the assault carriers, 40 small attack craft burst into space. They weren't carrying the heavy missiles that could punch through the station's armor. Instead, they had precision munitions, small and smart. The fighters split into 4 groups and approached the station from different angles, weaving through the electronic warfare screen. The station's point defense guns tried to shoot them down, but the targeting systems couldn't lock on properly through all the jamming. Most of the shots missed. The fighters reached their targets and fired. Explosions blossomed across the station's surface, small and precise. They weren't trying to break through the hull. They were destroying sensor nodes, communication arrays, and point defense gun positions. Each fighter had been assigned specific targets before the battle even started. They hit those targets and pulled back, their job done. Station's sensors are degraded by 70%, the intelligence officer reported. Their point defense is down to 40% effectiveness. Communication between different sections of the station is disrupted. Now the pirates made their fatal mistake. They launched their own ships, a ragtag fleet of about 20 frigates and armed transports. They thought they needed to chase away the human fighters before more damage was done. The pirate ships accelerated out from the station's docking arms, heading toward where they thought the main human fleet was positioned. The electronic warfare had confused them about the humans' real location. They flew directly into a trap. The three human destroyers had positioned themselves along the pirates' most likely exit vectors, hidden by the electromagnetic noise and using the station's own mass to mask their heat signatures. As the pirate ships rushed past, suddenly the destroyers were there, close enough to shoot without missing. Opened fire, accelerating metal slugs to a fraction of light speed. At this range, against ships that weren't expecting an ambush, it was like shooting targets at a practice range. The first pirate ship exploded into debris. The second lost its engines and began tumbling. The third managed to get its shields up, but missiles from the human frigates found it seconds later. The entire pirate fleet lasted 4 minutes. Pirate ships destroyed or disabled, reported the tactical officer. No human casualties. Reeves allowed himself a small smile. The council observers were probably confused right now. This didn't look like any battle they'd seen before. Every human ship was doing something different, but everything connected. Electronic warfare had blinded the enemy. Strike fighters had stripped away defenses, and the destroyers had been waiting exactly where the pirates would run. "Send in the Marines," Reeves ordered. The two assault carriers moved toward the station, approaching from an angle where most of the point defense guns had been destroyed. They didn't head for the main docking arms where the pirates would expect an attack. Instead, they targeted auxiliary airlocks and maintenance hatches, small entrances that would be less heavily defended. Inside the assault carriers, Colonel Maria Santos checked her armor one last time. Around her, 300 Marines did the same, their powered suits humming with energy. Each suit had weapons, sensors, medical systems, and communication equipment all integrated together. A Marine could fight, scout, heal wounded, and call for support all on their own. "Listen up," Santos said over the company channel. "We're not going in heavy and loud. We're going in quiet and smart. Combat engineers breach first and deploy mapping drones. Infantry secures corridors. Tech specialists hack their systems. Medics stay behind the front line but move fast if someone goes down. Everyone watches everyone else's back. This is combined arms warfare at close range. Do it right and we all go home." The assault carriers reached the station and clamped onto the hull. Cutting torches flared, burning through armor. The first breach opened, and combat engineers rushed through, moving quickly but carefully. They immediately released small floating drones that zipped away down corridors, mapping everything they saw. Behind them, the infantry teams advanced in groups of 4. Each team had different specialties, one with a heavy weapon, one with sensors, one with a breaching tool, and one with medical training. They moved through the station like water flowing around rocks, finding paths of least resistance. On the bridge of the Resolute, Reeves watched the tactical map update in real time as the drones sent back information. The station's interior was a maze of corridors, compartments, and vertical shafts. The pirates had fortified the main routes to the command center, probably expecting a straight push from the docking arms. The humans ignored those routes entirely. Marines are bypassing the fortified corridors, the tactical officer reported. They're using maintenance tunnels and ventilation shafts. Some teams are cutting new paths through walls. Inside the station, the pirates tried to organize a defense, but it was like fighting smoke. Every time they set up defensive positions in a corridor, the humans just went around. When the pirates sent teams to hunt the humans in the maintenance tunnels, the humans ambushed them with perfect coordination. One marine team would lure the pirates into a trap while another team hit them from behind. Colonel Santos led her team through a vertical shaft, climbing up toward the station's power distribution center. Her suit's sensors showed two pirates guarding a door 3 levels above. She signaled to her team, and they moved silently upward. The guards never saw them coming. 2 shots from suppressed weapons and the guards collapsed. Santos's team breached the door and rushed inside. The room was full of power conduits and control panels. A tech specialist immediately started working on the controls while the rest of the team secured the exits. Power distribution under our control, the tech specialist reported. I can cut power to any section of the station. Command centers on the list, Santos replied. But not yet. Let them think they still have control. This was happening all over the station. Small human teams were seizing critical systems, life support, environmental controls, internal sensors, door locks, gravity generators. The pirates didn't notice at first because the systems kept working normally. But now humans controlled them, not the pirates. In the station's command center, the pirate leader, unnamed, watched his tactical display with growing panic. His ships were gone. His outer defenses were wrecked. And now there were humans inside his station, but he couldn't tell how many or exactly where they were. Every report was contradictory. Some teams reported seeing humans in the lower levels. Others reported them in the upper levels. How many were there? Seal the command center, ordered. All teams fall back to defensive positions around the core. We'll make them pay for every meter. Heavy blast doors slammed shut throughout the station's central hub, creating a fortified zone around the command center. Hundreds of pirates took position behind barriers and inside rooms, guns pointed at every corridor that led inward. If the humans wanted the command center, they'd have to fight through a meat grinder. On the Resolute, Admiral Reeves watched the pirates consolidate their defense and smiled. Colonel Santos, they've done exactly what we expected. You're clear to proceed. Understood, sir, Santos replied, activating plan surrender. Throughout the station, human teams stopped advancing. Instead, they moved to secure the systems they'd already captured. Then, simultaneously, every screen in the pirate-controlled zones flickered and showed the same image. Colonel Santos standing in an equipment room, looking calm. Attention pirates of station, she said. This is Colonel Santos of the Human Marine Corps. We now control your life support, power, communications, and internal sensors. We can cut your air, your heat, your lights, and your gravity anytime we want. You're trapped in your fortified positions with no way to resupply and no way to escape. We're offering one chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and exit your positions with your hands visible. You have 10 minutes to comply. Anyone who surrenders will be treated according to galactic law. Anyone who doesn't will suffocate when we shut down your air. Your choice. The transmission ended, stared at his screen in disbelief. Slowly, he checked his systems and realized with horror that everything Santos said was true. The humans had taken over his entire station without him even noticing. His fortifications were useless. He was trapped inside his own defensive positions. This isn't possible, he whispered. How did they? One of his officers spoke quietly. Sir, we've lost. They outmaneuvered us completely. If we don't surrender, they'll kill us all without firing another shot. Looked around at his crew, at the pirates who had followed him. He'd been a soldier once, a long time ago, before he turned to piracy. He knew when a battle was lost. Slowly, painfully, he reached for the communication panel. Human forces, this is Station Commander. We surrender. Give us time to power down our weapons and organize the surrender. We comply with your terms." Throughout the station, pirates began laying down their weapons and walking out of their positions with hands raised. Human marines appeared from side corridors and maintenance shafts, directing the prisoners to gathering points. The whole process took less than an hour. When finally walked out of the command center, Colonel Santos was waiting for him. She was smaller than he expected and younger, but her eyes were hard with experience. "You played us," said bitterly. "You made us think you were coming one way and you came from everywhere else. You didn't fight us directly. You just took away everything we needed to fight." Santos shrugged. "That's combined arms warfare. We used our ships to take out your defenses and destroy your fleet. We used our marines to infiltrate and capture key systems. We used our tech specialists to take control of your infrastructure. We used our intelligence to predict where you'd make your last stand. And then we used all of it together to make surrender your only option. No single element won this battle. They all did, working together." "Your species is dangerous," said quietly. "Not because you're strong, but because you think differently." "We learned to think this way fighting each other," Santos replied. "Now we're offering to teach others. Maybe they'll listen." The station was fully secured 6 hours after the operation began. 0 human casualties. Minimal damage to the station. 3,000 pirates captured without a massacre. The council observers had watched it all, and now they had to report what they'd seen to their leaders. Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking at the secured station on his screens. Ambassador's face appeared on a communication channel. "The council wants a debrief, Admiral," she said. "They're calling an emergency session. I think we got their attention." "Good," Reeves replied, "because that was the easy demonstration. Wait until they see what we can really do when the stakes are higher." War Master stood in the center of the council chamber, his crystalline body shifting through colors so quickly it looked like a rainbow caught in a storm. Around him, representatives from 43 species all talked at once, their voices creating chaos that hadn't been heard in these halls for centuries. "Order's voice rang out like a bell, and slowly the chamber quieted. "We must address what we have witnessed with rationality, not emotion." The Commander Vex stepped forward, his massive rocky body trembling slightly. "Rationality. They made a mockery of everything we know about warfare. Our doctrine is clear. Use the best tool for each job. The humans ignored this completely and somehow succeeded anyway." "They did more than succeed," said the Shield Mistress, her voice quiet but firm. "They achieved total victory with 0 casualties in a situation where we expected heavy losses, and they did it using ships and weapons that our analysis rated as merely adequate. This shouldn't be possible." Admiral Reeves and Ambassador had been invited to address the council, and they stood together near the center. Reeves looked calm, but could see the tension in his shoulders. Everything depended on the next hour. "Admiral Reeves," War Master said, "please explain to the council exactly what we observed. Many here claim it is impossible to coordinate so many different elements simultaneously, yet you did it. How?" Reeves stepped forward and activated a hologram showing the battle. "I'll walk you through it step by step, War Master. First, our electronic warfare frigates blinded the station's sensors. This wasn't meant to destroy anything. It was meant to create confusion and make our actual numbers unclear. While they were confused, our strike fighters destroyed their external defenses with precision strikes. Again, not trying to break through, just removing their ability to shoot back effectively." The hologram showed the pirate ships launching and flying into the ambush. "The pirates made a predictable mistake," Reeves continued. "They sent their ships to chase away what they thought was our main attack, but we'd anticipated this. Our destroyers were positioned where we calculated the pirates would fly, and we destroyed their fleet before it could threaten our assault carriers. This part took careful planning and prediction of enemy behavior." "Wait," interrupted a Quar representative, their tentacles waving. You planned where they would fly before the battle even started. How could you know? Intelligence analysis combined with psychological profiling, Reeves answered. We studied pirate tactics from 100 previous encounters. We know how desperate people behave when their home base is attacked. We predicted they would launch their ships to protect their sensor arrays because those arrays were their eyes. It was a calculated risk, but we were confident enough to position our destroyers in advance. The hologram now showed Marines breaching the station. Once space was cleared, our Marines went in, but not through the main entrances. We used mapping drones to find auxiliary access points. We sent combat engineers first to create safe entry zones. Then infantry teams advanced through paths of least resistance. We avoided the heavily fortified areas entirely because there was no need to fight through them when we could go around. A representative stood up, body shifting uncertainly. But the complexity of coordination. Your Marines were in dozens of different locations, all moving independently, all communicating back to your ships. The bandwidth requirements alone should have overwhelmed your systems. It did push our systems hard, Reeves admitted. But we've designed everything specifically for this kind of warfare. Every Marine suit has its own sensors and communication gear. Every team can operate independently but shares data constantly. Our command network is built to handle massive information flow because we expect to control multiple battle spaces simultaneously. It's not easy, and it takes years of training, but it works. The hologram showed Colonel Santos's surrender message. The final phase was the key, Reeves said. We didn't try to storm their fortifications. We simply took control of the systems they needed to survive and gave them a choice: surrender or die slowly. This worked because we'd captured those systems while they were distracted by our direct military action. The combat teams were the hammer that got their attention. The technical specialists were the anvil that trapped them. War Master's colors had settled into a deep blue, which had learned meant he was thinking very carefully. Admiral, I understand the tactics you employed. What I don't understand is the strategic philosophy behind them. You used 17 different unit types in perfect coordination. By contrast, when the Council handles a similar situation, we would deploy perhaps 3 species: one to bombard, one to board, and one to occupy. Simpler, cleaner, easier to command. Also more predictable and more vulnerable, Reeves replied. War Master, may I ask you a question? When was the last time the Council faced an enemy that truly surprised you? Thought for a moment. The Hal Swarm, 17,000 cycles ago. They nearly destroyed us because they attacked in ways we hadn't anticipated. And how did the Council defeat them? We adapted our deployment patterns and developed new specialized weapons to counter their tactics. Which took how long? 300 cycles of warfare. Reeves nodded slowly. 300 years of war because your doctrine couldn't adapt quickly. War Master, specialized excellence is wonderful when you know exactly what you're facing. But modern warfare isn't predictable. The enemy adapts, the situation changes, and sudden surprises happen. Combined arms warfare isn't just about coordination. It's about flexibility. If one approach doesn't work, we instantly try another because we have so many tools available at the same time. Ambassador stepped forward now. This is what humanity is offering the Council. Not just our ships or our weapons, but our way of thinking about warfare. Imagine if every species in the Council trained to fight together, really together, with full integration rather than simple deployment coordination. Imagine if the shields protected bombardment ships while infantry advanced under cover from intelligence agents. All at the same time, all supporting each other. The training requirements would be enormous, protested a delegate, their insect-like face clicking with concern. We have bred and trained for our specialization for 10,000 generations. Yes, it would take time, agreed. And we're not saying you should abandon your specializations. That will still have the best shields in the galaxy. That will still have the most powerful weapons. But imagine if you also knew how to use those strengths in coordination with everyone else's strengths. That's what makes combined arms warfare so effective. The whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. War Master walked slowly around the circle, his crystalline body chiming softly with each step. Finally, he stopped and faced Reeves directly. Ambassador Admiral, I will be honest with you. What you've demonstrated frightens many species in this council. For 17,000 cycles, we have maintained peace through a balance of specialized power. Each species knows what others can do, and this knowledge prevents conflict. But your approach changes everything. A species that masters combined arms warfare could potentially defeat any specialist in their own domain through superior coordination and adaptation. That's true, said quietly. And that's exactly why we're teaching it openly rather than keeping it secret. War Master, the greatest threat to galactic peace isn't one species becoming stronger than others. It's one species becoming so much more effective at warfare that others can't understand or counter it. We're offering to prevent that by making sure everyone has access to the same knowledge. Your species fought itself for 3,000 years, said. You paid for this knowledge in blood. Yes, replied. And that's why we're giving it away freely. So no one else has to learn these lessons the way we did. The galaxy is changing, War Master. New threats will emerge that won't fit neatly into the categories your current doctrine handles. When that happens, wouldn't you rather have every species trained in flexible, adaptive warfare? The chamber fell silent. Every representative was thinking about the implications. Finally, a voice spoke up from an unexpected source. It was Elder Chin of the Zephyr, a species that contributed advanced sensors to the council but usually stayed quiet in political debates. I propose a vote, Elder Chin said, their voice raspy with age. But not a vote on human membership. That question is settled in my mind. They have proven themselves. No, I propose we vote on something much larger. I propose the Galactic War Council be disbanded. Shock rippled through the chamber. Voices rose in protest and confusion. Elder Chin continued speaking, raising their voice to be heard. I propose we create something new. An integrated defense command, built on the principles humanity has demonstrated. Not a council of specialists who deploy separately, but a unified military force where all species train and fight together. The old council served us well for 17,000 cycles, but we have just seen the future of warfare, and it doesn't look like the past. War Master's colors flashed bright white, the equivalent of a human's jaw dropping. You propose we abandon 17,000 cycles of tradition. I propose we evolve, Elder Chin replied, as we should have done long ago. The debate that followed lasted for 6 hours. Representatives argued passionately on both sides. Some saw the human demonstration as proof that change was needed. Others saw it as a threat to the order that had kept peace for so long. But gradually, slowly, opinion shifted. The Shield Mistress stood up and spoke. I have consulted with my people's war leaders. We believe the Elder Chin is correct. Our shields are the best in the galaxy, but what good are perfect shields if we cannot coordinate with others effectively? We vote for change. One by one, other species stood and declared their positions. Despite their initial skepticism, voted for change after their military analysts confirmed that combined arms tactics could defeat pure bombardment strategies. Voted for change, seeing opportunity to make their espionage even more effective through integration. Took longest to decide, but finally agreed that their swarm tactics could benefit from combined arms support. When the final vote came, it was unanimous. 43 species voted to dissolve the Galactic War Council and create the Integrated Defense Command. Humanity would lead the initial training and doctrinal development, with each species contributing their specialized knowledge to the new integrated framework. War Master, who would become the first Supreme Commander of the new IDC, approached Ambassador and Admiral Reeves after the vote concluded. You have changed everything, he said, his colors settling into a calm gold. I hope you understand the responsibility you've taken on. Training 43 species to fight your way will be the work of generations." "We understand," replied, "and we're committed to seeing it through. But War Master, may I ask you something personally? What changed your mind? You seemed very skeptical at first." His colors shifted through several shades before settling on a deep purple, which had learned indicated honesty and vulnerability. "You want to know the truth? It was something small," he said. "During the battle, I watched your Colonel Santos. When she gave the pirates the option to surrender, she called them by name. She'd researched the pirate leader, knew his history, knew he had been a soldier before turning to crime. She treated him with respect even though he was her enemy. That level of attention to individual detail, even in the middle of a complex military operation, told me something important." "What's that?" Reeves asked. "That your combined arms warfare isn't just about tactics and coordination. It's about seeing every element, every person, every factor as important. You don't just integrate weapon systems. You integrate everything, including human factors, psychology, intelligence, logistics, and yes, even mercy. That kind of holistic thinking is what we've been missing." Smiled. "That's probably the best understanding of our philosophy I've heard from anyone, War Master. You're going to do well leading the new IDC." As they left the council chambers, Reeves turned to, "You know what's going to happen now, don't you? Once the galaxy learns to fight like humans, the next war is going to be completely different from anything they've seen before." "I know," replied